our customer service representative for all things Bluebeam renewal related. So if you're an existing ATG customer and you have Bluebeam licensing, she will be the one to talk to about renewals. And she's a great wealth of knowledge and a young grasshopper. Would that be fair to say? Because she's always coming to us saying, hey, what does this do? What do I do about that? So she wants to learn a lot.
Yes.
And she will also be at XCon. So we'll see you in a couple of weeks in San Diego, everybody. There'll be high fives and all those things. Yes. Young
they have not told us about this, Doug. Maybe we can talk about it at XCon. Arv can app prior. I'm assuming we need that.
Yeah, there's an app to get into Canada. But anyway, not speaking of Canada, it's Tuesday morning. It's August 9th. We're live streaming. Hello, everybody. How's it going today?
Everybody, how is it going? They can't reply except for the chat. So hopefully it was intended to me as well. It's going great. I am still technically on vacation, but I love what I do. So I'm here to hang out with all of you and talk about Bluebeam as a whole and Bluebeam review today. I think we're going to be talking about studio. There was a little snafu, so hopefully you were all following the forums. Jason Artley was on top of it yesterday. I saw the post to let you all know that the studio was down. So if you're ever looking for a location to ask questions or get updates quickly, join us on LinkedIn. We have a group. It is called the Morning Coffee Review. Yes, was on it. Yep, Mr. Artley was on it.
So there's also a Facebook Bluebeam user group as well, which is actually pretty good, but responses can be a little slow because Facebook is the devil. I said what I said, but otherwise, that LinkedIn group we're trying to grow. So with that, yesterday I posted that there was an issue with Studio, which is what we're going to talk about today. And just like Autodesk, they have a little health dashboard. If you're ever having issues, you can go to status.bluebeam.com and it will tell you what's going on. So yesterday there was some issues, right? And it even gives you the history, which is pretty darn cool. So projects, sessions, cloud, drawings, gateway, all that stuff had issues. But overall, that was not scheduled. But you can kind of see how often things go down, and that's been like a long time. So not bad.
I wonder if it was the changeover with the announcement. Probably something happened on the back end of the switch.
It could be. There's all sorts of things going on behind the scenes because, as you know, for those folks who are on review 19 or older, your studio days are coming to an end. You have less than a year to wrap up your projects, get them all done, get all your punch listing done, get all your construction done, because as of March 21st of 2023, you're not going to be able to get in anymore.
Nope.
Sorry.
You will be forever kicked out unless you have downloaded the newest version of Revu. And you won't be able to buy, you're not able to buy 19 and below right now.
Right.
And they haven't announced anything in terms of that happening for 20 yet. But if we can take note, something probably will happen for Revu 20 just because Bluebeam is trying to become a SaaS-based company, right? So the introduction into it will be Revu 21. And to roll out of it full phase would be doing the same kind of thought process for Revu 20 as they did for 19 and below. So even if you're on Revu 20, you're listening in and you're like, well, what's going on? Just take note what they're doing for Revu 19 and below. It's probably, this is more of my like future thought, just like Mega Super Ultra, going to happen for Revu 20 as well.
Yeah. And they keep saying mid 2023. So we don't know if it'll be March or February like the 2019 EOL was, but it's coming regardless. Yep. And I tell you, every week I'm astounded by the amount of people that we encounter who are still on Revu 15, 16, 17, 18, And they're fine. We're just going to stay on this. You can't. Don't do it. There's no reason to do it. Go back to a flip phone. Go drive a 1978 Chevy Caprice if you like. There's reasons things improve, right? And while the Caprice was one of Chevy's longest body styles, I'm over it, right? And I think that there's no reason to hang on to that old stuff. All the improvements, especially in Revu 20, make it well worth it. And if you need help convincing, give us a holler. We can talk with your folks and get them on board. And hopefully you all are champions as well. If you see somebody using 16, just smack them. Just like a gentle backside of the head. What's your problem here?
We also have some blooming into Revu videos to help those folks that are transitioning. So we offer personal training as well, but we do have, of course, all of our older MCRs, which is the blooming into Revu. We had some other ones. I just forget what they were named. We have I'm just going to throw a number out there, probably 78 videos. Oh,
there's more than that.
Of an hour.
We're getting close to the 100 mark, and then we're going to have to do something real fun. Yeah. But that's what we're doing here on MCR, and a lot of you know that because I see a lot of familiar names on here, as well as some new names, as well as some fellow ATG employees. So awesome to see you all here. And without further ado, shall we get into should we talk about what we're going to talk about?
Yes, as usual. What are we going to talk about? Studio.
Deep dive into Studio. So we were kind of teasing about that a little bit, right? If you are in a version of Revu that is below Revu 20, you can get into Studio now, but come March, not going to happen. Studio is the wave of the future. I'm sure. Well, let's just ask our little our people out there. Does everybody in our group use Studio? I know not everybody does, but any Studio haters, I should say, in the chat.
I'm going to open up because I want to compare where it's going to go. So let me look for this website. There.
You froze up again. Vince hasn't used Studio at all. David thinks Studio is nice. I think it's really handy.
There we go. Okay. So let's just start off.
Oh, you keep freezing. Or am I freezing?
It's me. My internet's telling me I should still be on vacation. So here we are. So let's talk about where Studio will be. I feel like we should talk about it there, and then we'll say what is accessible right now. Does that sound fair?
I mean, this is public domain, so yeah.
Okay. So Studio will have different limitations with newer version that is going to be released here soon. This is on the interwebs, so I am not bringing anything up except for what's on the interweb. But if I go down below, there will be different access for their base subscription cost, which is what we would kind of equivalent to standard. So collaboration in real time, there'll be view mode access to sessions. And what does that mean, right? We can go new tab here. View mode access means light markups. So creating new PDF, adding files, disabled functionality in view mode, and adding markups to a PDF outside of a session. There will be limited markup capabilities. If I remember, they were just some of the typical comments and additions. And then, and you can't create a new session. So there will be some limitations, which kind of follow suit to what we currently have in Revu if you're using the view mode, because you can still access a Studio session from the free version of Revu, right? So Studio is two parts. It is part of Revu as a whole. There's Studio Projects and Studio Sessions. Studio Projects is unlimited storage for any file type except an executable. I found that out. And you can invite as many folks as you want into it. It is kind of like Dropbox, which is ironic because Dropbox is a platinum sponsor for XCon. And so are we, by the way, ATG is. But It is like Dropbox, essentially. You can store any file type. The great thing about this, though, is you can have a license or a PDF checked out and checked in so other people can still view it. You can work off of a .rvt file, .dwg. I found out the other day when I was training, you no longer have to have Revu open to save it back to that cloud portal. You just have to be connected to the internet, which is pretty cool. This is free with every license of Revu. And then there's Studio Sessions. Studio Sessions is collaboration on 2D or 3D PDFs. So it is that .pdf extension allowing you to work simultaneously with project partners on your iPad, on your tablets, soon to be on a web browser, right? Those types of things that'll be in the future. Well, I don't think you'll be able to log into sessions because it's still Bluebeam Cloud through a web browser. But anyways, you'll be able to go through and collaborate live on a 2D or 3D PDF set. Now, there are some limitations. So in terms of archiving, now your session will stay inactive for 120 days, such as these grayer color icons for all of our more experienced folks. We'll talk about it in a second for less experienced folks. And then after 180 days, it gets deleted from their server. And it's the same 180 days for your projects. So let's say you accidentally deleted a project, you right-clicked and said delete, like this training M delete, because I needed to delete it at some point. Once you delete it and you're trying to recover it, it does still stay on their server for 180 days. Now, if you accidentally put, let's say, a government project up there and you weren't supposed to, you can contact Bluebeam and they'll delete it from their server immediately. You just need to know the ID of what it was and the username who it was tied to. And if you need to recover it, you can do the same suit. You can recover it in a little bit easier method if you have Studio Prime. Now, Studio Prime is the analytical portion of Studio. It is a separate subscription, and it allows you to plug into third-party apps to create a studio session, which we'll be covering today. Anything else to add?
All right. So you covered projects, you covered sessions, and you talked about Prime. So let's back up and show people how to get in here, and especially what to do if you're not in the US.
Great. So let's hop back. I'm going to sign out. So every single edition of Revu has Studio in it. And if I switch my profile to what you get if you usually just out of the box install Revu, you'll see the panel on the bottom left side of your panel bar. And you're able to click the Studio icon and populate this panel open. Now, in order to get into Studio, you're going to need a, what, Jason?
A Bluebeam ID.
So in order to create a Bluebeam ID, you need to hit sign in. And then from here, you'll hit create account. Now, from the create account item here, you just type in your first name, last name, Bluebeam display name. Now, this should not be an alias like Batman or Robin, that's DC Universe, or Superman, and anything else, because everything is logged in the running record from your display name. The next one is your email address, then a password. You will get a confirmation email. Now, you don't have to immediately confirm it. I, though, do recommend that because you can't recover things from your Studio ID. If you don't go through and confirm this, then you have to email Bluebeam. It's a whole fun time. I had to do it myself.
So this is free. So this doesn't cost your company anything. But for your email, I do recommend using your work email for your Bluebeam ID, because going forward into new versions, that's how things will be managed. And it's hard to change that ID. Possible, but not easy.
Okay. Then once you create it, you can sign in. Yeah, the IT guy. And moving forward, the IT guy will be happy that he doesn't have to figure out what account you had tied to it, because then you're going to log into that same one for your Bluebeam ID as your email address for your account. Okay. So let me log in. Oh, wait, before I do, Mr. Artley asked about out of the state, right?
There are 5 Bluebeam servers. So US, UK, Australia, Germany, and Sweden.
Another question, because I know someone here has asked this too. Can I create a server that isn't any of these?
You sure can.
By going to manage servers. So you can go through and add your own if you ever needed to.
I don't know if it works with other cloud servers. There might be a way to make that happen. That's well beyond what I need, what I know. Question, when your email changes, so you change companies or your company gets acquired or you get a new job, should you create a new ID or is there a way to update your email?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, let me log into here.
I think you'd probably need to get a new ID because your licenses will soon be tied to that ID. So you don't want to go to a new company and use your old company's one. That's not cool. And hopefully your old company disables it by then, right?
So you can change it. Please visit the following support article.
I've got that bookmark somewhere.
Change Bluebeam ID email address. So I will put this in the chat.
There you go.
Because you can't change it from here, but you can change your username. Yes. And that is by studio.bluebeam.com. Now, this is the old interface, unless you have Prime. That's why I have this one. And then I went to this one. This is what you get if you have just not Prime, which allows you to reactivate your archived sessions. So as you can see here, I can go through and see active or deleted or anything like that.
So then I was totally wrong on my little response to the question in there about having visibility to see projects and sessions.
But you
can't see projects.
Yeah. Yep.
You can't see. Yeah.
Yeah.
You get some, but not all.
Yeah. They give you they give you a little look so you can go in and see just your, your projects. I mean, your sessions, sorry, and get a deep dive into those, but that's it. You cannot go through and manage everything like you can from your Prime portal.
Correcto.
Okay. So let me sign in here.
Oh, good question from Ed. So as you get logged in here, if a user leaves and IT shuts down their account, our session is protected from them going in and using a different account, correct? Yes and no, right? So there's a couple things going on there. Did that user create it? Because the admin or the creator of that session or project has the key to do things. Prime is a good way, and I've heard about it. I haven't seen it of people being disgruntled and going in and sabotaging projects. I mean, it's totally possible. Could you imagine that? Like they're under construction, you go in there and change some dimensions and screw up the whole building. Like there are repercussions if you are leveraging this without admin control. So
yeah, I mean,
depending on their security, if they would be allowed in or not.
They won't be allowed in if you delete the domain, right? And you remove the domain from here. So just as an IT person, I would just be preactive on how the retainment is going and come in here prior to the release of the employee. But it does document changes. So if someone does go through and if you needed to reprimand somebody or go into a lawsuit, right, the changes are still recorded. So
is Prime the only way to delete the user or admin when they leave the company? No, but it's the only way to change a session ownership without them logging in.
Yeah, otherwise you'd have to log into their personal Bluebeam ID name to apply the change to the ownership of that specific one, like I just showed.
Right.
I guess you could not give them access to their email address, and just you as IT could go through and request an email password update and then change it, and then go into their session ID and change it from there.
That sounds tricky, but yeah, that's probably what you need to do. All right. So you're going to start us off in sessions or projects today?
Typically I go through and talk about sessions first. So let's go through and quickly cover sessions from more of a high level overview. And we'll name this one MCR. Let's see, that was that date. So we'll just go and talk about these two icons first, and then we'll create a new one for MCR. But you have the projects panel, which looks like a piece of paper with some lines on it. The next one is a whiteboard, which is sessions. Now, in order to go through and start a new session, all you have to do is hit the plus addition button on the right-hand side. To the right of that, there's a filter, which just allows you to reorganize the existing ones. So I'm just going to hit the plus and then new. You can also join your sessions from here from the ID given down here, the 9-digit code with dashes or not dashes, completely up to you. So I'm going to hit not join. My apologies. I'm going to hit new. I'm going to name this MCR, today's date. So we'll do 2022-08-09. And this is where I can add files. You don't have to add files now. I typically add them later. I'm going to add them later for this instance. You can always add them now if you wanted to. The other items below that are your options of permissions. So what can other folks do when they join my session? Save as, print, markup, markup alert, add documents. So I'm going to leave these settings as normal here. I'm going to remove this restrict attendees by email addresses. I think this was a question earlier. Can anyone join your session or project? By default, whenever you create a new project or session, this is checked, which means that people cannot join unless their email address is added. Also, if this is checked and someone's trying to join by the ID number, if you are the owner, it'll prompt you with a window now that says, do you want to allow X attendee? So be aware of that. So I'm going to leave this unchecked so folks can join this, so we can see some live collaboration between us and other folks from different places. The next one below there is session expiration dates. So on this left-hand side, you'll see ones with red little icon. That means they're about to expire at some set time that I've set. Same thing follows suit here. I can set an expiration. So this will end, right, once we are done here. You can extend this and you can change this even after it's expired if you are the session owner. This allows you to make sure that people are hitting deadlines. Maybe there's a specific deadline that someone needs to hit and milestone for their review process. And you want to give them a little nudge that they will be kicked out at a specific time, right? Because it does update you and gives you a time of when the session will expire. So we'll set this one to expire today. We'll do it after MCR. Let's see, my time, which will be 8 o'clock. Okay. Now, folks can join. I'm going to assume Mr. Arley will join once this thing populates open. And anyone else that would like to join, I will add some PDFs now. I have way too many things on my left saved area. Okay. But by default, when you start one, this window will populate. This is the new invitee window, which is great. It is new because before they had this, I'll show you the invite one, which is like a white UI. This one's a lot easier to invite people. You can have a, a text file or something like that to quickly copy and paste a bunch of email addresses into here. You can also add emails from groups. Groupings are great when you're trying to set different permissions for different groups. This really helps when you're going into projects, because if you're in projects and you want to create specific groups for specific permissions to folders, it's really best to do that with groups versus by specific email address. That way you can say, like, for this instance, all directors can see all folders and all subs can see all folders, but 2 particular folders, which we'll talk about in projects as well. Okay, Next is going to be your email address. So if you want to go through and use your email address, which is our current email address through Outlook, and then any additional message. So a message will be sent out that you've been invited to a studio project or session. When you invite them to either of these, for this instance, it's a session. If you wanted to add any additional messaging to whoever you're inviting, this will be the great time to do that as well. You have a limit option of 10,000 characters, so don't get too paragraphy. And then I'm going to hit cancel because I'm not inviting one, and we already have some folks going through and reviewing this. Now, before I go through to the attendees list and follow some folks, let's go over the top portion. So you'll have the name of what this is, the 9-digit code to get into the session. If you are the owner, you'll be able to have the drop-down selection here that allows you to finish out the session, meaning you're going to close out the session and archive the PDFs somewhere, and it's going to kick everybody out, and including yourself. The next one is the leave button, which looks like a door because you're able to step out the door and come back. It does not lock you out unless it was a session expiration like we do have here. The next one is the session settings. So it allows you to go through and select some settings such as the total users in here, enable that expiration, which we had before, any notifications you want to manage, any attendees that you want to add and restrict, permissions that we have. This is what I was talking about earlier. It's a little bit better in terms of a layout for projects. But for here, you can say, hey, people can't save as, can't print, can't mark up. So maybe you want this to just be a viewing session for everyone. You can limit their ability to mark up, or maybe only some users can mark up, right? Right now, it's all attendees, but you could do that grouping formation that I had. So down here with the 3 little people in the gear symbol, you can create your groups. And these groups follow over to projects as well. So from here, you just hit add, you title the group, and then from in the groups, you're able to add their email addresses. But from here, then you can add those groups. Hey, I want to add these groupings and have those specific users, or just from the ones that are currently in here. And thanks to those folks for joining. As you look at these, you can go through and select them and say, hey, you know, I'm going to limit Mr. Artley here. He can't do anything.
Fine.
So again, limiting per person, or I can give that said person full control. And I would only let some people do this, like Mr. Early. So now he has full control of this, but let's go through and show the next portion. The next one is status. Now, I think this was a little bit of a new segue that they added that was very beneficial, because some folks that I've trained have always asked, well, how can we make sure we know what people are doing? Like, hey, are you done reviewing? Are you done marking up? There's now the status, and you can hit the drop down of the status and you can say you've finished. That way, as an admin to the session, I can go through and look and say, hey, all these people are finished, or maybe someone hasn't finished, and then you can message them or give them a nudge, whatever you'd like. You can also do a custom one like I did for getting coffee. And below that, you can see all of the attendees and folks that have not joined. So if you've invited someone by an email address, you will see that they have not joined here yet. And the same suit, if they are not joined like this one, you'll see that they have not joined from here. If you are that person that were invited, but you haven't joined the session. This is what the session expiration looks like. So from here, you'll see that this is going to expire in 1 hour. These are a red border. That means those sessions are set to expire at some said time. Let me go back in and we'll go through and check out some things that are happening in our particular session. I'm going to sneeze though.
Don't do it. Oh.
You scared me. Okay. So from here, I'm going to go through and follow Mr. Artley. So all I have to do is right click on Artley.
I'll start moving around then.
Okay, thank you. So all you have to do for these attendees, if you want to kind of create what we're doing here in Zoom where you're watching somebody, but you don't want to get on Zoom, and maybe you're on the phone with them, or you can use the chat feature down here. All I have to do is right click on Mr. Artley and say follow. And now I'm going to follow him live as what he's doing in marking up. So the little up, down, left, and right arrow are actually live following of where his style is, so where his mouse is. And as he makes markups, I will see them live on here as well. It's a great feature with Revu, and there's no other solution like this for collaboration on PDFs. allowing us to simultaneously mark up and record all changes that are maintained on a document. So that's just quickly selecting them. You can unfollow them just by going to the right of them and just deselecting that follow the attendee. So you can click on yourself, it defollows them, and I'll just make sure Arlie makes a markup somewhere. We'll go over here.
I did make a markup, and it's got that little red icon saying it's pending an upload.
Okay.
So it'll pop up here in a second.
I'll go to these other ones. These other ones that I can go through and look at as well. If I select them, they are actually grayed out. The purpose for this is the ability to make sure that I am not able to modify. So it is maintaining that integrity of the original markup owner. So I don't have to worry about someone else being joined in the session and then moving any of my markups that I've made. So you do have that option of going through and maintaining this. There's not really an option. That is what it is. You can't go through and modify anyone else's markups. Now, this always is asked because some folks love to have the ability to change statuses for markups, right? So if I go through and make a markup on a PDF, and this is going to be a high-level overview for those folks because they may not have been able to do this before. But if I go through and make a markup on a PDF outside of a session, which we can see this is in a session, this one is not in a session with the icon, you can create custom statuses for your markups that when you mark completed, they change the color. Now, I can do this by going to change status, modify this, change the color, hit OK, go back, mark as completed. It changes the color. This is great because we're in the digital world. We no longer have to highlight over something just like we used to do back in the day when we printed out a PDF set, right? So the great part about this is how do we get this to happen in here when if I go into a session and I hit this custom icon here, it does not auto update, right? The reason for this is the fact that it's not maintained on the PDF. Even if I switch the profile to a different profile that has some of these already saved in here, if I go through, select this, I was clicking some other one. It will not change that, right? The reason is it doesn't matter what profile you're in to go through and make these changes. What matters is the fact that you're going to go through and create it on the metadata of the PDF. So if you want custom statuses to happen in a studio session, you have to run this prior to it being uploaded and save that metadata. So if I delete this out because I changed this and I save as to my desktop, I save that to my desktop, right?
Yep.
Okay. All righty. So then I go back to here and I go to my desktop and open it. And I go through and make a revision and I set my new status, review completed, it will change. Now, hopefully, when I go through and make my new one, someone else can go through and mark completed and it changes for them as well.
So how come all of the markups I've made do not appear yet? All mine still show as pending.
Have you hit the check button up here to make sure you're connected?
I am connected.
So, we'll have to figure out what's going on with you. But David Clark, thank you for coming in and saving the day here. He changed the status and it did change the color. So it only happens not by profile, unfortunately, right now. It only happens if you have done something to the PDF prior and saved the metadata. So for all those folks asking how can they accomplish this, this is that workflow. It is a little bit more tedious, but it is amazing because now we can track not just by the status, visually we can see the differences. So if this is something you want, by all means, that is the workflow you have to go through. But if you don't want to follow that workflow and you want to just filter out, you can also do the same thing and say, I only want to see things that are blank. And then you can see all the other ones that are not filled out with the custom status will be filtered out in that manner.
Correct.
Oh, maybe it is the finished status.
Do you think that actually matters?
It may. Sheldon may be on something. Hey, if that is true, I will have learned something new.
Right. So I switched my status back to reviewing. But I thought I made some things before I hit finished. But you do see on the left that I am in your Samtech PDF page 1. You know, if I switch to page 2, that happens pretty quick on your end, right?
Yeah.
But if I make a call out, it still gives me that red pending upload icon. So really weird.
Yeah, I think you're just still messed up.
But how come it's syncing what page I'm on? If I look at your screen, right? So I'm on page 1. If I switch to page 2, look how fast. Page 3, page 6. I'll hit enter now. Like that's not even a second delay that I see on your screen of what page I'm at. But yet my markups will not appear. Interesting. Maybe it was that permission that you were messing with.
Oh, but I think I gave you full control, or did I just hit exit?
And if so, that would be interesting on my side because it lets me see that I'm making markups, but I'm not getting that confirmation.
I allowed all.
Huh. Weird. Okay.
Liz is having a session on sessions. Is it sessions and projects or just sessions at XCon? Doug said. So
sessions and custom statuses.
Okay.
That's important.
Yes. And she'll probably know more things than I do, which is great. So I highly recommend that. And hopefully we'll be able to sit in on that, at least one of us, because I know we'll have to trade off on managing our booths. But anyways, going back to this status, I just wanted to add this because I know we had an internal question about this, and now I can refer back to this video for it. We actually taught this to our team here at our tech summit because this is going to be our new implemented workflow for design review. So just be aware. That is the ability to go through and add that custom status with the color changing options. And statuses have always been a things in the markups list, being able to record different instances on statuses on specific markups. What else can we do in here? So you do have the option of going through and making a revision or any type of markup and selecting it, right-clicking, and alerting attendees. So if you decide to alert any attendees that have joined your session, you will get a notification in here, which David Clark already jumped ahead, which I love. Thank you so much, David. And I can go through and select Mr. David Clark's markup that he told me and indicated for. And when I selected it, since he alerted me, it's going to jump me right to where he's at.
And I got out and I got back in and it automatically pushed all my stuff. And now when I make new comments, they're showing up in real time.
It may have been because I changed it and then it auto sent you the update that I denied everything to you, and then it republished it back after you got out.
Yeah.
So you probably could have done the same thing by hitting disconnect and then reconnect.
Probably.
Yeah.
But, you know, that good old IT wisdom of turn it off and turn it back on again.
Sometimes that works, right?
70% of the time it works all the time.
So you have the attendees list here. You have your documents. You can always add more documents right here by the up file. Now, there's been questions in the past. Can I go through and reorganize these? You can only organize them by alphabetical and by date. Hopefully they update this, maybe some folder structures in here, who knows? But right now there isn't any. Now, if you would like some, you can always go to help, make a suggestion. Next is the running record. So there's a running record of everything that's ever taken place when people have joined, people have left, people have marked up, always taking place and itemizing every instance right here in the running record. The next is your notification. So if someone's alerted you, and then pending. So this is where Artley's markups were going. So are mine. So if I go out to the field and I don't have any internet connection and I start making any markups, they will be pending, meaning once I reconnect to the internet, they will then publish back to everyone else so they can see them. So you don't have to worry if you're out in the field. The only thing that you have to worry about is making sure that you have selected a PDF prior to going out to the field, because it has to cache it locally on your drive. So if you are going out to the field, please open up the PDF prior to going out. Then when you come into the field, you can open it up, mark it up, They'll be published once you get back to internet connection. But you have to make sure you open the PDF prior to going out to the field.
Correct. And good question. Does it work the same way for the Revu app for iPad? Yes. As long as you have the PDF open first, it will cache whatever you put in there. And then once you reconnect to the internet, it will sync back up.
Yeah. So if you're going out to the field, you have your iPad, just before you go out, before you leave the hotel, wherever you have internet connection, click the PDF open. You can close it out. But once you're on the field, you can then reopen it by not being connected to the internet. And then you can mark up just like you traditionally would.
So even better question. Thanks for that clarification, Brandon. Just open or open in the session. So you have to have that PDF that's a part of the session open. And you can tell by the icon up at the top.
And why is that? That is because the PDF is actually a copy of what you've added from your drive. So I didn't talk about that at the beginning. Studio projects and sessions are two different buckets of storage in Bluebeam's AWS server. So this is not a dynamic link to a copy on your drive. It is a static link. So if you're adding a PDF from your drive, it is actually not a direct link to what the markups will be held on your drive. It is a copy. So if you want to save a copy that's here, you can right click save as, or you can go down to your record. And if you are having the correct admin rights, you can actually print out a record report and a document report by hitting the what looks like the markups list icon, but it's smaller. It's the running record report icon. I kind of made that up. I think that's what it's called though. Maybe not. But you can go to here and you can run a running record report. So basically a record report of everything that's ever happened. You're probably going to prefer the PDF package report, which is what I prefer, or combined, which is going to staple all of these together and the record. I prefer the PDF package. Below that, you'll have your options of title of how the report's going to be printed out. Is it going to include attendees list, documents, and running record items? Filter. So this is very important. Down here, you have your record. You can filter out what you do not want to see from your record, like the chat. Let's say Jason said something inappropriate, which he never would, but if he did, I could filter that out when I print out the report, right? So you can do that, or markups. I'm going to go to here. I'm going to say, okay. You can also include some information of what you want to do. I think I was about to just create the record. So we'll do PDF package, desktop, save this. Now, this is just like a zip file, but it's a .pdf extension, which is pretty cool. And you can create these outside of here. You can just go file, create PDF package. So you can add any additional files if you wanted to, but the PDF that stands out first is the report. In there is a folder that says documents, and these are all of your documents. The great thing about this is I can go to the report and I can click on any of these, such as what David Clark has done. Thanks again for helping us out here. I can click this and it brings me directly to where his markup was made.
Pretty magical. So this solves that problem of, well, I didn't see that markup, or I wasn't there at the meeting. It gives you that sort of check in, check out sort of thing if you were to do a session as a meeting.
Yeah. So this is that transparency and running record of everything that's ever taken place. I have one that goes all the way back to 2019 when I first started in review sessions. So good little note there. But that is the report portion. You always still have that ability to go through to your markups list. I highly recommend checking out what you cannot do in a session. That is one of the MCRs we did. We are not going to get that deep in the woods here, but just be aware there are some limitations in a session because you do not need a license of review to get into a session.
And let's go back and talk about what a session is really for, right? This is for real-time collaboration for up to 500 people on the same document at the same time. So for that case, think about the document that you're uploading. You can't add sheets. You can't do certain things because maybe somebody already got in and reviewed it. And then if you go add sheets after the fact, that's not keeping your document healthy or maintaining that single source of truth. So there are some limitations to make your data integrity stronger.
Yep. And that is correct. Next is projects. Yeah, 500 people on file. Yep, I would agree.
Yeah, I don't want to work on a project like that myself.
So there are limitations to sessions, and things like document management can't happen. So what I prefer to do, because there are two different buckets for projects and sessions of storage, I like to store things in projects and link them into a session. That way, if I ever needed to do document management, I could right click, update server copy, and delete it from here. Then it would bring it into here. And this is for more advanced folks. I know you're probably like, if you've never been in this, you're probably questioning, what is Michael talking about? But hopefully we'll have time to get kind of into that. Update the server copy and then push it back into the session. That is my preferred method. But projects, storage, so you can store any file type. How does Studio Projects manage file locking? It's a check-in, check-out basis, which is great because there is revision history. So that's for any file, a .rvt, a .dwg. You'll have a revision history of it cached. So don't worry if you maybe made an update you shouldn't have, because you can actually revert back to an older file if you needed to as well. Now, I can't quote any corruption that's ever happened. I haven't seen it yet, but there probably may be if you're reverting back to an older file type for .rvt or .dwg. I wouldn't heavily rely on that reverting back to for those file types, but for PDFs, it's great.
Can admins see all stored files and projects?
If you have Studio Prime.
Yes.
So I can go to my Studio Prime. I guess I don't have it up. Oh, it is right here. So I can go through, and anyone that I've added to my collaborators, I can go through and look and navigate through any of theirs. So these are all of them that have been added. I'm going to assume like half of these are mine. If you go and look at just mine here, but we'll go to someone correct. Is that yours?
Yeah,
this is yours.
You can mess with that one.
Okay. So I can go through here and see attendees and the documents that have been added.
You can look at my folder. I was very professional about my session.
Mm-hmm. Sure was. I can even transfer his ownership to someone else.
Yep. So these people
Cody
have to be added on your Prime portal, though. So you can do that through a CSV file. You can have all your employees just add everybody up there real quick.
That is correct. It doesn't auto add them from your domain.
Oh, what a beautiful question. Is there any file size or type limitations with projects? Type? The only one that I've seen that doesn't work is an exe file.
Yep.
But that might work inside of a zip file. Haven't tried it. File size? Nope. You can have any file size you want and any file storage you want, right? So if you're having lots of stuff, well, there is a limit, but it's like you're never going to hit it.
It says after 10 gigs, you may see lower bandwidth, but
that sounds like
that's it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big project, though.
Yeah. I mean, you'd have to be dropping a ton of things in there. But again, coming back, you can go through and create one from adding the plus symbol, new project, or join. I'm just going to go and open one that I already have, and I'm pretty sure this is locked, so please don't try to join this. I usually keep my panel closed when I'm going through my project because you don't need this panel open, and I like having more real estate. It looks just like a PDF tab, and now I have all of this options of the project ID, the ownership, if I want to invite somebody in any upload status, if I'm adding any PDFs or items. I wouldn't link, well, you can't link to a point cloud in here, Sheldon, but if, let's say you wanted to add a point cloud in here to send a shareable link to a client, you could. So if I wanted to go and right click and say, share this point cloud to somebody, you could hypothetically do that.
But there's still no way to view a point cloud in a 3D PDF. And if somebody can figure that out, I would love to see it because that's one workflow I need to work on.
There you go, folks. So going back to adding PDFs to a session, I like to have my PDF stored in my project. And then from here, I'll add them into the session. So all I have to do is on a PDF, you can right click it and say add to a session. So this one isn't added. So I right click and just add to new session or existing. New will create a new one for the name of it with a different ID. But this one is file share because it used to be file share, but I created demo share. I changed the name. And then you can go through here and add it to there. That way, it'll check this PDF out. So how do PDFs maintain their file locking is you check them out, check them in. So it'll check it out into the session. Then it'll be in the session and you can mark up, and then you can update the server copy, delete it, and it'll allow you to check this back into here and you can manipulate it again. So it's a check-in, check-out basis for any file type. But specifically for PDFs, if you check it out and work on it, it keeps you in the design environment, right? If it's an Excel file, it's going to open, do you think Revu or Excel?
Well, if it's a PDF, it's going to open up in Revu. If it's an Excel file, it's going to open up in Excel.
There we go. So you do have that option of going through and working on different file extensions. Just be aware if it's a .rvt file, you have to have the correct version of Revit open. Otherwise, it'll open up your latest installed. Little caveat there. But yeah, we can go through and manipulate any of our PDFs. So if I wanted to go through and not open these RFAs, what's the point? White paper, which Mr. Brian Weeks created. So what you can go through here is I can double click it open. What this will allow me to do is see this lock symbol on this tab. That means I do not have it checked out to work on. I am just viewing it. So I'm viewing the PDF. I cannot mark this up. However, if no one else has this checked out, I can click this lock icon and check it out. That means I'm checking out the only copy. However, Mr. Artley could go through and view it as well, even though I have it checked out. He cannot mark it up, though. If you want live collaboration, that is what
Sessions is for.
Yes.
I was totally looking for that white paper, by the way. So if you could send that to me, that'd be sweet. Now, David asks, can you link a project to SharePoint online? This question comes up a bunch. Yes and no.
Can you link a project to SharePoint? So you could link a... I'm trying to think of your question. So in a project, you can click a link that brings you into SharePoint, but you can't do the adverse.
Yeah, so he's wanting to sync the library.
So you can create a open library drop link to SharePoint, but you can't go from SharePoint into projects.
Right.
And you wouldn't want to be in projects if you're using SharePoint because SharePoint is its storage. So you would want to be able to get into SharePoint from Revu. Can you do that? Yes. So if you go to preferences, you can go to your interface and you can add SharePoint options. What it will do is it'll give you something similar to this, which is linking to my project files. This is how I create dashboards. And we'll quickly show a dashboard too in here, but it'll create a window like this into your SharePoint location. So this one's currently going to my studio projects, and I can link into my projects to open up PDFs from here. Now, that'll be the same type of thought process for your SharePoint. It'll link you into your SharePoint. You can open up your file and then you can work on it and then close it back in. Now, what is dashboards? So you can go through and create what we call dashboards. And I showed you how to do that in 1 hour on our good old white paper. We'll have to look for the white paper to kind of send you it out as well. Someone can grab that link. I'm going
CJ sleeping or not?
Yeah. So we'll go through to this Chicago office build one. This is when I was invited to just for going through and doing their dashboard training. But you can go through and click on their dashboard. Basically, it's a PDF. And instead of going through and navigating through your typical file structure that you would create, just like you would in Windows, you're able to go through and create this PDF dashboard for a project. So you can invite all project partners and they can go through this digital way of viewing documents instead of our old archive folder to folder way. Now, all I have to do in here is go home. I can go through and say, hey, I want to look at all of my drawing sets and all of my drawing sets for the architectural sets. And I want to go and look at my wall sections. And you know what? I need to modify these. And I could check it out on open as I go through and revision something. So you can go through and have those options of enabling that. Teams is not currently linked. I asked this question earlier. We are migrating to Teams as well here at ATG, and there is no add-in yet. There are a ton of add-ins for Teams, and I hope in the future they will be able to add those. However, you can still go through and navigate to your Teams folder from open from disk here. If you sync your Teams, you will have the Teams drive here, and you are able to go through and grab PDFs from there, like this one, and you can mark them up. So yeah, technically you can integrate into Teams through this way, but there is no add-in yet from an app standpoint. Same thing for integration into BIM 360. So just like I synced my Teams file for my folder structure here, just like I did in Teams, I can go through and follow the same suit for my docs. So you're going to go through, again, the desktop connector to get into BIM 360. Now, there used to be the integration from BIM 360 or ACC into a studio session, but good old AD archived their connector. So the only way to get into a PDF from the or into the BIM 360 or ACC is through the desktop connector. I also created a blog on this. So if you want some literature, you can go to ATG USA and go to our blogs or information. Mr. Early almost spilt his cup. And that is all found right here. So I'll just actually go there. ATG USA.
Go to resources.
There we go. So you can go to resources and go to resources. You can go to white papers. We'll show you where our white paper, not our, but the white paper that I created, but there's more white papers than just that. So yeah, ours is kind of correct. You can go to here. I'll have this dashboards link here.
Dashboards in an hour.
The dashboard actions path is set up to relative server path instead of absolute. Oh, is that from the?
That's from YouTube.
That's from YouTube.
Good question. I want to hop back to.
Well, hold on. Let me quickly show you the workflows and solutions blog for BIM 360. I probably should have put an ACC in there. I think it is in there. I think I asked Kyle when I was doing that. Where is it? Okay, I'll have to grab it from my. I don't see it here.
No, once you find it, just post it in the LinkedIn group.
Yeah, I'll post in the LinkedIn group. Okay. So what was the question? Can dashboard action hyperlinks path set to relative local server path instead of absolute? Yeah, so it's up to you. So if you wanted to have them hyperlink to a different location, it's completely up to you and your workflow that you want to go through and use. So if I want to create an action item for something, and that's what we're talking about for creating a link, like those clickable options that I had, right, that you're selecting and it brings you somewhere. All you have to do is create an action. If I could spell, all I have to do is select my markup. Sorry, I had to rethink about that. And then you can go to edit action. And it can be to open and it can go anywhere. So use relative paths or not relative paths. So that's your question there. AHJK.
There you go. Well, look at the time. Holy cow.
Whoa. Went through that quick.
That did go quick. I was worried that we went that we would be struggling a little bit, but some good questions and some good discovery as we went through there made life kind of easy.
Yeah, and if I didn't cover anything, just join our LinkedIn group, ask questions there. We'll answer them throughout the week, pretty much as they come in, depending on our time. As always, there is a survey at the end. So if you do have questions or comments that you would like answered now, we do email you right after. If you give us a below 4 rating, please let us know why. We are not performing to your expectations. And if you do give us a below rating and don't leave any comments, we'll email you as well.
Yep. And next week is all about tips and tricks. So bring them. We've got our own. We'd like to see what you've got as well. So stay tuned for that one.
maybe we'll do a prize for the best tip and trick from the community.
Ooh, we haven't done a prize in a while.
We have not. So if anybody wants some cool prizes, bring your best tips and tricks next week and we'll vote.
There we go. Sounds like a plan.
All righty.
Have a good week, everybody. Stay safe. We'll see you next week.
See you next time.